All right, we're going to start this recording. This is our construction adhesive lab. The students prepared the samples about 3 weeks ago. The way we prepared the samples was we took a 2x4. And we simply cut it to about 12 inches long. We took some plywood. We cut them about 4 inches wide, about 8 inches long. And then we're going to take these 2x4s. There's 2 per group. One 2x4, we're going to do a 0 minute where we're going to lay a bead down immediately and nail the plywood down to it. The other 2x4, we had it soaking so that half of it was submerged in water. Well, it only submerged about a ½ inch, but half of it would absorb water. And we're going to immediately put a bead on that and nail it right away. So we're going to end up with what's called a 0 minute wet, and we're going to end up with what's called a 0 minute dry. Okay, and so those are the 2 beads that we do right away. Then once they do that on those 2 2x4s, they're going to flip them over. They're going to lay a bead on the other side, and we're going to wait 15 minutes, and then they're going to go ahead and nail that piece of plywood. As you can see in the end here, we used 1 brad on each end just to hold those pieces of plywood in line while it dries. Okay, and then the last case is the other wet 2x4. They were going to put a bead on it and flip it over immediately, start their timer, and after 30 minutes, we were going to go ahead and nail that one on. Okay, what this is going to simulate is when you're on the job site and your glue monkey's way ahead of all the guys laying the sheets down, and the roach truck pulls up, that all construction ceases, and that glue is just going to sit there and skim over while everybody's on break. Okay, you get back after break, you start laying the sheets down again. That glue's skimmed over for about 15 minutes or so while you're on break. If the boss is gone, we all know breaks go a little longer, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or if it's a lunch break, it'd be more like 30 minutes. And so that's why we do the 15 minutes and the 30 minutes. Okay, and we're going to test these glues to see if there's any difference of if we lay it down immediately, if it's wet, or if we let it skim over for 15 minutes, or if we let it skim over for 30 minutes. Okay. Most glues, it tells you on there not to allow them dry for more than about 30 minutes before you apply them. Okay. This is not like contact cement where you apply it to both pieces, let it get tacky, and then bond it. Okay. This is regular construction adhesive, comes in the tubes. Okay. Of the construction adhesive, we use 3 different types. The first type is we used a petroleum based, and we have 2 of them. We have Ace Heavy Duty. That's one of our petroleum based ones. The other petroleum based one is we use Liquid Nail Subfloor. Been around a long time. Kind of Ace is the cheapest, about $2.39. Liquid Nail Subfloor varies in price, usually somewhere between $3.80 to $4.59, somewhere in that range. Okay, those are our petroleum based. Okay. We're going to do some polyurethane based, and we have 2 polyurethane based. Our polyurethane based, the first one is actually liquid nails, and it's called polyurethane. And the second one is our PL8X Loctite Fast Grab Premium. And if you look on it, it says it's a polyurethane formula. Okay, so those are our 2 polyurethane based ones. Okay. The second 2 that we're going to do are our water-based, okay, or what we call our quick cleanup water-based constructive adhesive. So the first one we have, Liquid Nails Ultra Quick Grip, and then the second one we have is our Power Grab Loctite, okay, and we're going to see how those perform, okay. And then just for good measure, we went ahead and threw in Gorilla Glue, heavy duty construction adhesive. We've been testing this since about the last 3 semesters. First semester, it was the bottom of the pack. Second semester, bottom of the pack. Last semester, it was in the middle of the pack. So don't know if they changed the formula. I know there's a couple different ones out there now. There used to just be one. Now there's 2 different ones that you can buy. So we're going to see how it performs. All I found on the tube didn't really say what the formula was. On the website, it says that it's a poly a proprietary poly formula. Okay, so I think maybe it's polyurethane, not sure. Okay, so we threw that one in there for good measure. All right. So we're going to start with the ACE Heavy Duty. That's the first one we're going to start with. Again, petroleum-based, typically mineral spirit cleanup. We're going to do our 0-minute dry. So we'll do 0-minute dry, assuming the students mark these correctly. We're going to put them in our fixture. And this fixture is designed to hold the 2x4 and then pull the plywood off. We want to make sure the plywood is somewhat centered in the fixture right here, so that we pull it off as evenly as possible. We're going to do that. You can't really see the other controls on crosshead controls, but we're going to do that at a crosshead speed of 1 inch a minute. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over there to 0 this. I push both buttons. To display the peak, I'll push the first button. I've already zeroed this. This is just the weight of the sample now, giving us that 1.2. All right, so we're going to go and hit the down button, and we're going to see what happens when we test it. Okay, once the slack is taken up, should start to load it. And yes, the numbers are changing there, so hopefully we'll get a good reading here. All right, once it breaks, we're going to run this back up. I'm going to display the peak for you. So ACE Heavy Duty 688 for the 0-minute dry. Okay, I'm going to take this, and we're going to actually pop these off as we do it. We're going to pop these off and kind of see what happened. Okay, in this case, we can see that the plywood, literally that outer sheathing of the plywood came loose. Okay, literally peeled loose. They actually did have 2 beads of glue on there, so I had plenty of glue on this sample. And we're going to flip it over now and do 15-minute dry. Okay, same procedure. We want to get it somewhat centered so that we pull that plywood off as even as possible. Okay, so we're going to reset the display, hit the down arrow, toss that in the trash. So we can see got about the same 688 for the first one, 705 for the 15 minutes. So far we're not seeing a lot of change in time, at least 15-minute wise for that. We still see the same failure. Again, that outer sheathing or lamina on that piece of plywood failed. This is the first semester that I've used a higher quality plywood as far as more layers there. One or two of them here we'll see they'll have the old plywood with only 4 layers. All right, so now we'll go to our we'll go to our 30 minutes. Load it in there. And I ran that up kind of high, so we're going to zero this. And then we're going to run this down all the ways, take some of the slack out. All right, again, this is still ACE Heavy Duty, 30 minutes. So we let that bead sit for 30 minutes before we nail the piece of wood on. And again, not a lot of change. In fact, a little bit better than the initial, although some of that might be due to the amount of glue or to the plywood. Still tended to peel off that outer layer of the plywood. All right, we're going to see what happens on the wet. Got to run it up a little further. They got to kind of their beads clear out about twice as far as I needed them. I got to center it there. Reset it. And down. Okay, so we're going to see what happens if it's wet. And we can see that, yes, it was definitely lower, about half, 307. Okay. And we can literally see that it delaminated. Basically didn't stick to here, didn't really, kind of flakes off, kind of doesn't cure the way it did when it wasn't wet. So in this case, we would say that the water wet 2x4s did affect the ACE glue. Okay, we're going to do our other oil-based ones. So we're going to start with 0-minute dry. And for this one, again, if you remember from the very introduction, it's liquid nails subfloor. Again, this is a petroleum-based glue, been around a long time, kind of a standard go-to glue. We're going to put it in here, and we're going to do the 0-minute dry. Again, trying to get our plywood somewhat centered so that it pulls off nice and even. Okay. So here we go. Again, liquid nails subfloor, 0-minute dry. We'll take up some of that slack. Again, we're using a crosshead speed of 1 inch a minute. And we got 932. Okay, so in this case, it literally pulled that plywood apart on the bottom. Okay, we're going to flip it over. We're going to do a 15-minute dry. Get it somewhat centered. Again, for the 0-minute dry, 932, I reset it. Now we're going to do the 15 minutes. See if it has much effect. So 760. Again, pretty much same results. This time it didn't pull quite as much of the plywood apart, just the outer veneer off from there. All right, we're going to do the 30 minutes. And of course my phone would ring. And we're going to pause.